could watch Luke Cage beat up thugs and gangsters all day long as it is set to the Wu-Tang Clan. I rip it hardcore like porno flick bitches. I roll with groups of ghetto bastards with biscuits. Before I set off the white boy alarm, let me just say that this week's episode of Luke Cage was awesome! It was a much more simpler episode, but it was all the more satisfying because Luke Cage is hitting Cottonmouth where it hurts most, his wallet. Not to mention this week's episode had a few twists, turns, and a really great and explosive cliffhanger ending. So what was going down in this week's episode of Luke Cage? Luke is trying to get revenge against Cottonmouth, but he's not the kind of guy who's going to go about it with violence. He's really going to try and hit him where it truly hurts, by taking all of his money away. In fact, he's actually trying to help out Chico and that old dude who hangs out at the barbershop, who apparently has been old friends with Pops for a long time. He was his accountant, and they need the dough to bring this place up back from the flow. Okay, I promise for the rest of the review, no more rapisms. So Luke Cage, now confident in his superhuman abilities, decides that he's going to go around to a bunch of these different safe houses, which are just sort of these empty buildings, which are basically private banks for Cottonmouth. To hide all of his money and all of his goods, he's going to bust in, kick some ass, and let the cops know what's going down, while taking a very small amount of money for himself so that they can reopen Pop's barbershop. For those who have been itching for some action, this episode is definitely going to satisfy all of that. In fact, I loved how the episode opened up where there's this empty building, and then suddenly you see all of these guys just screaming, running out of a building, glass shattering, and then suddenly a massive couch is just thrown out of a window. That's because Luke Cage is kicking all sorts of ass. The action scenes in this episode are pretty damn nice. I mean, they're nothing too mind-blowing or anything, and I don't even think they're on the same level as, say, Netflix's Daredevil or anything. They have a completely different feel to them. And the main reason for this is just the fact that Luke Cage can't be hurt. No one can cut him, no one can shoot him. Hell, he even gets a rocket launcher shot at him at the very end of this episode. More on that one later because it's a great cliffhanger ending. But just watching him go through these various buildings slowly but surely like a freaking serial killer, like Godzilla walking over Tokyo without even thinking, it's just awesome. It's great. One of these scenes was teased in one of the earlier previews for Luke Cage when he goes to the big safe house, which is known as Fort Knox, according to Cottonmouth, and he busts into this place and he rips a car door off as he walks into this building, blocking all of the attacks, smacking people into walls. He even takes it and wraps it around a guy and throws him down a flight of stairs. The scene where he walks into the room and picks up a couch and just starts like swinging it around the room, smacking everybody around. They do a really great job of just showing how obnoxiously strong Luke Cage is in this episode. Like, just a scene where he rips like a door off just looks so casual to him. Luke Cage gets the money, so it looks like the barbershop is going to be just fine. Or is it? The other subplot of this episode involves the character of Chico. At the beginning of the episode, he's talking with Misty Knight and her partner, who ends up being a pretty important character in this episode, and I think it goes without saying, if you haven't watched this episode, spoiler alert, it's kind of a big deal for this one. They're trying to get Chico to actually cooperate with the investigation, letting them know that they basically just need him to get some information. However, Chico is really afraid to go along with any of this. However, it's Misty Knight's partner who actually manages to convince him later on in the episode. And at the very end of the episode, Chico ends up calling him and he goes to pick him up. And hilariously enough, they're hanging out under a bridge in a secluded area, just having a hamburger and talking things over. Chico's getting ready to turn over a new leaf when suddenly Misty Knight's partner takes off his tie and kills and chokes Chico. This guy is actually an informant for Cottonmouth, and what I love about this character too is how he's got a lot of swagger himself. He actually walks right into Cottonmouth's club to tell him that it's Luke Cage who's actually been taking down all of his safe houses. I love how he walks behind the bar and takes a drink right there in front of him. It's pretty damn ballsy. I would not want to do that in front of Cottonmouth, but the only reason he's able to get away with this is that he knows exactly who it is that's taken all of Cotton's money. What I also really love about this episode is how Luke Cage is sort of wronging all of the rights of the streets. He goes back to Genghis Khan's, which again is such an amazing name for a Chinese restaurant, and he gives her the money to actually fix up the place during that big fight in the very first episode. And then suddenly, up on a roof, across the street from Genghis Khan's, is Cottonmouth with a freaking rocket launcher, and without even hesitating, he just immediately fires right at the restaurant. Luke Cage jumps in front of Connie, trying to protect her. Big explosion, ending this week's episode. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Luke Cage? A much simpler episode, but one that I think worked a lot more effectively. The action scenes were great. I think that goes without saying. They were really brutal and hard-hitting, and they displayed Luke Cage's signature fighting style, which basically is just, I don't give a fuck. If you get in my way, I'm knocking your shit out. He goes by the whole Batman creed, though, where he's not really there to kill anybody, but just to rough them up a lot. The thing that I think I loved most about this episode, and probably most of the series in general, is the amazing use of music during a lot of the key scenes and action scenes and during, like, montage sequences. Not only do they enhance them atmospherically, but a lot of the times they just work with what's actually going on in the story. Bring to Ruckus, Wu-Tang Clan, during that scene at the end of the episode where Luke Cage is just going in, like, they could have just done no, like, music at all and it could have been awesome. That enhanced that scene so freaking much, and I absolutely loved it. I can't wait to see more like that, not to mention the way this episode ended right here, and the fact that Misty Knight's partner is a douche. I did not expect that at all. He came across as just sort of like the typical nerdy partner that you see in a lot of detective shows. But no, he's a fucking asshole. Also, before I forget it, let me just apologize. In the last episode, there was a really great callback to Daredevil. A lot of my commenters actually mentioned this. There was the character of Turk, who was working as an informant for one of Cottonmouth's goons. And after he sees what happened to that guy when Cottonmouth threw him over the side of a building, he's like, man, you guys are crazy. I'm going back to Hell's Kitchen where it's safe. He really thinks it's going to be safe in Hell's Kitchen? He's about to get a red baton right up his ass. Also, I'm always loving the little callbacks to the other parts of the Marvel Universe, like when Misty Knight's partner is talking about his weapon, how it's just a gun, he wishes he could have a magical hammer, just like Thor. Little moments like that do a great job of sort of tying this entire universe together. That being said, this was a pretty awesome episode where you finally get to see Luke Cage in action, doing what he does best, which is kicking criminal ass. Not to mention a fantastic cliffhanger ending. Great use of cinematography and music as well. Episode 3 was great. Cannot wait to check out episode 4. I'm giving this episode right here a 5 out of 5. Easily my favorite episode of the entire series. So you heard my thoughts about this week's episode of Luke Cage, but I want to hear from you guys. Did any of you watch the 3rd episode? What did you think about it? Did you have a favorite scene? What did you think of those Luke Cage action scenes? Is he going to survive? Clearly he is, because there is going to be a number of more episodes, and it's fucking Power Man. He can take this shit. He takes rocket launchers every day to the chest. It's no problem. So make sure to tell me what you thought about the series and what you liked about the entire season overall, and what you hope to see from some of the other future Netflix Marvel series. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you'll be able to see all of our awesome anime and manga reviews, and even some TV show reviews that I'm doing. I'm doing Star Wars Rebels, I'm doing Luke Cage, I have a few other couple surprises over the course of the next couple months and years to come. I'm gonna do this until I'm an old man, guys, so get used to it. Otherwise, subscribe, like, comment on the video. You guys know the drill. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.